The West wants you to believe that the Middle East is their private playground, that the oil kings of the Gulf only bow to Washington or Beijing. But yesterday, right here in New Delhi, the entire geopolitical chessboard was flipped over, and the Western media is terrified to even whisper about it. While the world is distracted by wars and recessions, a silent revolution took place at the Delhi airport that guarantees India's rise as a superpower and drives a stake through the heart of the deep state's plan to encircle us. They told you India was isolated. They told you we had no friends. But I am going to show you the cold, hard facts and expose the hidden agenda behind the most significant 3 hours in recent history. You have to understand what just happened. This wasn't a ceremonial tea party. This wasn't a photo op for the cameras. The president of the UAE, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, MBZ himself, flew into India for a lightning-fast visit, barely 3 hours on the ground. And in those 3 hours, he didn't just sign deals, he effectively signed a declaration of independence from Western hegemony alongside Prime Minister Modi. The Western media, the New York Times, the BBC, they will bury this story on page 6. They will distract you with some irrelevant nonsense about diversity quotas because they cannot afford for you to know that the United Arab Emirates, the crown jewel of the Gulf, has just bet its entire future on India. Let's look at the evidence. Look at the specifics of what was signed, because the devil is in the details, and the details are a nightmare for India's enemies. The headline is the elevation of ties to a strategic defense partnership. Pause and let that sink in. Defense partnership. For 50 years, the security architecture of the Middle East was owned by the Americans and the British. They sold the weapons, they provided the security guarantees, and in exchange, they controlled the oil. But now, the UAE is looking at New Delhi and saying, "We trust your security architecture more." This is a slap in the face to the military-industrial complex in Washington. It is a direct challenge to the Chinese who thought they could buy the Middle East with debt traps and cheap drones. India and the UAE are not just trading saffron and dates anymore. We are talking about joint defense production. We are talking about strategic alignment in a region that is currently on fire. Why does this matter to you, the common Indian taxpayer, the student, the professional? Because the world is becoming a dangerous place. Supply chains are breaking, wars are erupting in the Red Sea, and energy prices are being weaponized by the West to kill rising economies. The West wants India to beg. They want us to come crawling for oil and gas. They want to sanction us for buying Russian energy. They want to dictate the price of our growth. But this meeting in Delhi just built a fortress around the Indian economy. We finalized a massive LNG deal, a long-term liquefied natural gas pact that secures your electricity, your industry, and your cooking gas for decades, regardless of what games the global markets play. While Europe is freezing and deindustrializing because they blindly followed American sanctions, India is locking in energy security with the Arabs, bypassing the dollar, bypassing the Western middlemen, and securing the fuel for our $5 trillion economy. And speaking of energy, look at the nuclear deal. This is the part the global media is desperate to hide. A fresh push on nuclear reactors. Think about the level of trust required for that. Nuclear technology is the holy grail of sovereignty. Nations do not share nuclear cooperation with countries they do not trust with their lives. By partnering with India on nuclear energy, the UAE is saying that they see India not just as a market, but also as a scientific peer, a technological equal. The West still treats India like a junior partner. They lecture us on technology transfer. They hold back engine technology. They put sanctions on our scientists. But here is the UAE, a country with unlimited capital, choosing Indian know-how, choosing the Indian strategic embrace. This shatters the narrative that India is technologically backward. It proves that the global South can build its own future without permission from the White House or Brussels. Now, I need to address the elephant in the room, the one thing that makes the deep state and our neighbors to the west, the ones in Pakistan, absolutely lose their sleep. The joint statement condemned terror in all forms and pledged to fight it together. You might say, well, everyone condemns terror. What is new? Everything is new, because for decades, Pakistan used the Gulf, used the UAE and Saudi Arabia as their strategic backyard, their ATM machine, their ideological big brothers. They thought they had a monopoly on the friendship of the Muslim world, but that monopoly is dead. It is buried. When the leader of the UAE stands on Indian soil and pledges to fight terror alongside India, he is sending a message to Islamabad that the days of using religion as a shield for terror are over. The UAE knows that Pakistan is a sinking ship, a failed state, export of chaos, while India is the engine of stability. This is not just diplomacy. This is the geopolitical isolation of the terror state endorsed by the most powerful leaders in the Muslim world. The hypocrisy of the West is that they still fund Pakistan. They still give them F-16 packages. They still pretend Pakistan is a major non-NATO ally, while India is actually doing the work of stabilizing the region with the Arabs. We have to talk about the timing. Look at the map. Look at the chaos in the Middle East right now. Israel and Hamas, the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea, Iran and Pakistan trading missiles. The entire region is a powder keg. In the middle of this firestorm, who does the UAE president consult? Does he fly to London? Does he fly to Paris? No, he flies to New Delhi. This proves that India is now seen as the only neutral, credible and powerful stabilizer in the region. The West is biased, China is predatory, Russia is distracted, but India stands tall as a Vishwaguru, a world teacher and a world stabilizer. This visit cements the reality that you cannot solve any global problem today without India at the table. And what about the trade target? They pledged to double bilateral trade. We are already doing billions, but the goal is to go exponentially higher. But it's not just the volume, it's the mechanism. We are moving towards trade settlements in local currencies, the rupee and the dirham. Do you understand how dangerous this is for the American hegemony? The entire power of the West rests on the petrodollar, on the fact that you must buy oil in dollars. Every time India and the UAE settle a trade in rupees, we are chipping away at the dollar dictatorship. We are insulating our currency from the manipulation of the Federal Reserve. The West hates this. They have toppled governments for less, but they cannot touch India and they cannot touch the UAE because together we are too big to bully. Let me take you deeper into the hidden agenda of the international community, that vague term the media uses. They want to create a wedge between India and the Arab world, using propaganda, using biased reports on minority rights, using paid activists to scream about democracy in danger. You see it every day. The Washington Post writing editorials, the European Union passing resolutions. Their goal is to tell the Arabs, look, India is anti-Muslim, don't do business with them. This narrative is a strategic weapon designed to stop India's growth, designed to cut off our energy supplies and our trade routes. But the MBZ visit just exposes this lie for what it is. The president of the UAE, a direct descendant of the Prophet's lineage, implies by his actions that he trusts India more than he trusts the lectures of the West. He sees the reality of India's inclusive growth. He sees the 1.4 million market and he ignores the noise. This is the ultimate vindication of India's secular credentials and foreign policy, and it burns the narrative peddlers in the West. Also consider the Chinese angle. The dragon is always lurking. China has been desperate to turn the Middle East into a vassal state, dumping cheap goods, building 5G networks that spy on everyone, and securing ports for their navy. They thought the UAE would fall into their lap because the US is retreating, but India has stepped in as the preferred partner. Why? Because India offers partnership, not ownership. We build, we don't colonize. The UAE realizes that relying on China is trading one master to another. India is the third pole, the democratic alternative that respects sovereignty. This defense partnership is a firewall against Chinese expansionism in the Indian Ocean and the Arabian Sea. The Connectivity Corridor, the IMEC, the India-Middle East-Europe Corridor. This is the answer to China's Belt and Road. Even with the turmoil in the region, the leaders are committed to this vision. They are building a trade route that bypasses the choke points controlled by India's enemies. You need to appreciate the urgency of the fast-track cooperation mentioned in the reports. Bureaucracy usually kills deals. Things take years, decades. But Modi and MBZ have cut through the red tape. They are creating a direct hotline between the systems. This means AI cooperation, artificial intelligence, the next frontier of warfare and economy. The UAE is investing heavily in AI, and India provides the brains, the data, and the scale. Together, we can dominate the digital future. The West wants to control AI. They want to set the rules, which basically means they win and we lose. By partnering on AI, India and the UAE are ensuring that the Global South writes its own code for the future. We are watching the formation of a new strategic arc, a geometry of power that ignores the old Cold War blocks. It is not about East versus West anymore. It is about the rising powers versus the fading powers. The old world, Europe and America, is obsessed with lectures and sanctions. The new world, India and the Gulf, is obsessed with growth, connectivity and mutual respect.
The UAE sees that the future is Asian, and the captain of the Asian century is India. They are betting on the winning horse. So when you see the Western news anchors sneering at India or ignoring this visit or trying to spin it as just a business trip, you will know the truth. You will know that they are trembling. They are watching their grip on the world slip away, deal by deal, handshake by handshake. They tried to encircle us with string of pearls. They tried to break us with sanctions. They tried to divide us with propaganda. But the elephant has not only woken up, it has broken the chains and is forging ironclad alliances that no power on earth can break. India is not just rising, India is arriving. The deal signed yesterday will power your homes, protect your borders, and secure your currency for the next 50 years. The axis of the world has shifted to New Delhi, and for the hypocrisy of the West, it is game over. Stay alert, stay united, and watch closely, because the best is yet to come. Jai Hind!